Hi, this is Trinisha Cottrell, and today I wanted to talk about a moment of weakness. So earlier today, I'm not gonna lie, and I was having a little bit of a time. Like today has been a great day. I've been completely blessed, and God has continued to bless me. And I've been just kind of doing some self-reflecting on, temptation and things that have been different trials and tribulations that come into my life, different people that I meet that will test my patience, test my standards, my boundaries. A lot of people that come into my life who do or do not mean me well. And I have been really trying to practice doing the things that God intends for me to do in my life and not just doing things that will be beneficial to other people or what other people do or don't want me to do in my life. I'm trying to be in a position of my life where if it's not of God, I don't want it. And I know like just saying it is easy, but putting that into action is not easy at all. It's actually a little difficult. And it's not difficult because I think that God won't work it out. I know my God can do exceedingly and abundantly above all else. He can do amazing things. He is the God of abundance. So it's not that I would be of lack of anything. It's just that sometimes it's difficult to see what I want versus what it is that God wants for my life. And I know I don't know better than Him. I'm not claiming to ever say that I can do God's job or that I am, I know what's best for me more than God knows what's best for me because there are things that I could think that I want for my life that if I would have had those things, it would have been the end of me, or it would have devastated me, or it would have really stressed me out. But because God is in control of my life, when I allow myself to be submissive, to be obedient, and take the lead on my life, it really is a lot better. It's more beneficial for me. It's not that I am seeking things just for my pleasure, for my benefit, for something that will only satisfy me. I'm doing things that will satisfy God. And so when I have to let things go that I really want, it's difficult. And when people don't appreciate me or treat me right, I have to let it go or I have to move on with my life. And I know some people watching that don't have their heart in the situation will say, oh, that's super easy. But it's always an easy decision when you're just mentally thinking of what you need to do. When you're just thinking of it in like oh, if this person does this, then I'm going to do this. If this job doesn't do this, then I'm going to do this. But when you have to actually put into action, when you've actually worked 5, 10 years in the business and walking away could mean that you don't get the next opportunity. Like when you're stepping out on faith and you're not just doing things the traditional way or whatever else it is, it's not an easy decision to just walk away from a job that you've been in for 15 years and and just say, "Oh, well, God's telling me to do this. So let me go ahead and serve in my purpose." It's not always an easy thing because if you're normal or when whatever is perceived as normal or if you are a person that has real emotions, a human being, it's not just a simple yes and no kind of thing. It's not just a obedience kind of thing. Sometimes you feel a pull on you. You feel concern or you start to feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know how this is going to turn out because we all don't know how our story is going to end or how our story will go in general. So when God is asking me to take a leap of faith, it's not always an easy decision. It's not difficult because I think God can't do it. It's difficult because I could feel I could feel myself starting to get concerned, or I think about all of the things that I would want versus what it is that God wants. Or it's almost as if you get you get faith amnesia or something because it's like God can do it like I've told my testimony and all of the things that God has brought me through. I've wrote a book about all the things that God has brought me through. And that's just a few things compared to the many things that I didn't mention and the many things that God showed up that I didn't even know that he stepped in to intervene on my behalf. So it's not that it's not that he hasn't performed miracles or hasn't pulled me through or hasn't done all of these great things in my life. It's just, I don't know what it is, but I could feel like this this spiritual amnesia that just makes me feel like, what? That can't be possible for me. And it's like, after all the things God has already done, why is it that you're thinking that this isn't something that's possible? Because obviously, he can do all things. It's not that he's a God of lack at all. He does so many things in my life and continues to bless me. And that's only the beginning. It's only the start of things, like when I'm being obedient. It's not that I have lived my life for the last 15 years or whatever being obedient. I have just become an obedient Christian within the past 2 years, and that has not been a long time at all. 2 years? It's almost 2 years. So, and it doesn't even feel like it's been that long, and I've had peace when I really stepped into it. I'd say it's been a good year and maybe close to a year and a half or something like that since I really stepped into it. But since I really had that moment, that turning point, one of the I don't know if I want to call it a turning point. I guess I've had a relational turning point in my life 2 years ago because that was when God spoke to me and I listened and I was obedient and I really did pray. I really did grow in my relationship with God. I really was intentional about my faith, and God changed where my mind was, where I felt like it was impossible for me to make it through that stage of my life, where I felt alone and I just really felt like I had to do it by myself. But God reminded me that He was always with me. And then my other turning point was when I think it was about a month ago. And when I talked to my therapist last month, or I think it was at the beginning of last month or so, it might have been, no, it was sometime last month. I don't know when, but we were discussing like different parts of my life and where I was in my life, where I was headed, what I think the future looks like, things like that. And I feel like I can voice this because this is mine. This isn't like the therapist is telling my business or anything like that. And it's not that, it's something that I don't mind, that I would mind sharing. So I feel good about sharing it because I feel like it'll be beneficial to someone else. And I'm not doing this work just for me. I'm doing it for my future people, the people in my future. I'm doing it for my legacy. I'm doing it for my child. I'm doing it for my entire family. I'm doing it for women who are like me and men who are underappreciated. I'm doing it for all of us. This is not just that my purpose only hangs on the result of my life. It hangs on hopefully generations to come. Hopefully, my family legacy to come. Hopefully my potential partner. Like all of those things hang on what it is that I'm doing in my purpose right now. And I can't just be like, oh, yeah, I totally give up because there's so many other people who depend on me stepping into my purpose. I can't allow fear to stop me. I can't allow judgment to stop me. I can't allow someone not seeing my value to stop me. I have to stay focused on the prize. I have to keep pushing forward in my purpose. I have to be obedient to God so that I can make the change that I want the world to be, what I want the generation coming behind me to be, what I want my legacy to leave behind. I want to be the different person who decided to speak up and say that no, we don't have to have division. We don't have to be one against another. We could be working together and more powerful than ever before. We could be encouraging each other instead of tearing each other down. It might seem like a joke, but if it's hindering someone's self-esteem, if it's something that is not really building up our society, it's not really building up our children, it's not really building up our culture, it's not really building us up for the benefit or better, then it's not something that I feel like we should lean on. We should be leaning on each other and encouraging each other. We should be speaking life into each other. And in order for us to do that, we have to work on ourselves first. We can't just expect someone else to fill a God-sized hole in our heart. We have to be aware that God is the only thing that can fill us up. We have to know that when we're speaking life into each other, it's because we truly love ourselves. It's because we've done the work. It's because we're willing to do the work to become better and better. It's not because we see someone else doing it and it's this cliche thing, or it's something that's popular that everyone else is doing, or we're doing it because in our core we want better for the future. We want better for other people around us. We want better for our friends and family. And that's why I do what I do. I do it because I I'm not going to allow any of the trials or tribulations or storms that I went through in my life to be in vain. I'm not going to allow another woman to feel alone, like there's nowhere to turn because she's heard it all before from her family and friends that she's not supposed to be with this person. But yet, when she's dealing with tragedy, when she has to deal with the most horrible things that could ever happen to her in or out of a relationship, when she's feeling like she's all alone, she knows that she's not alone because I've been there. She knows that even though it feels like she's alone right now, she has to make the best decision for herself and for her children. She can't just make the best decision in to out of resentment for someone else, or just to show, see, I can be in a relationship, or to prove someone wrong, that the person really isn't that bad when they really are. Or sometimes sometimes in a relationship, you really feel like you're the only person that sees the true potential of someone else. But just because you see greatness in someone, just because you want them to do better, doesn't mean that they desire to do better for themselves. And you could never live someone else's life for them. So if they only want the bare minimum in their life, if they only want their family and friends to talk down to them, to treat them badly, if they only want just the bare minimum of life and not to live their life to the best of their ability, then there's nothing you can do about it to change it. No matter how much you believe in them, they have to believe in themselves. And although you feel like you're quitting or you're giving up on someone, you're not, because you have to love yourself more than you love the other person. You really have to appreciate yourself more than that person appreciates you. And it may seem selfish, but you can't help someone pouring from an empty well. You can't, if you have an empty cup and there's two cups there and you have a drop of water in your cup left for you to just be able to do maybe the bare minimum of your life, just to be able to get up in the morning. You can't pour that drop into someone that's not willing to put forth an effort in their own life, that doesn't really believe in themselves. They really, truly, no matter how many times you can say you can do it, no matter how many times you can say you deserve better than that, no matter how many times you keep trying to inspire or speak life into the person that you're with, if they don't love themselves, if they don't feel like they deserve anything better, there's nothing that you can do about it. That's why it really has to start with you. And I learned something within the past few months that I knew, but I didn't think about it in this way. And I feel like this might help someone. Is sometimes men and women will be in a relationship and people will see things that we don't see, and they'll say, or they'll people will treat the person that you're with a certain type of way. They'll talk down to them. They'll use them for everything that they have. They will do all of these things to that person, and we will be there from the outside looking in as their partner, as their boyfriend, their girlfriend, what man, woman, whatever it is that you're doing. And we will be saying things like, you deserve better than that. And God put on my heart last month when this revelation came to me. And we always constantly say that person deserves better than that, but we never say that we deserve better than that. We are so focused on trying to make it better for someone else that we love, but sometimes the best thing you can do for someone that you love is to let them go, especially if they're not going to appreciate you. When you're the same time that you're telling them that they deserve better, they don't deserve people in their family or friends talking down to them, using them, it's the same way you don't deserve someone that you're with using you or not appreciating you or talking down to you. I think it's really important for you to let that marinate, let that thought really penetrate your mind, and really think about what I just said there. Really think about how you always want better for other people. You could see your friend in this bad relationship and you want her to just move on. You don't want her to have to go through that anymore. You don't want her to have to settle for something less than you know that she deserves. We are always hoping for something better for someone else, but when we think about ourselves, we just settle for anything, and we can no longer do that. It's time today, this moment that you're watching this video, for you to realize that you deserve better. You can't just sit there in misery. You can't just settle for things less than what God intended for your life. You can't just allow some person who doesn't even know who they are to tell you who God says that you are. You can't just pretend that your boundaries are there for no reason. They're there to protect you so that you can guard your heart at all costs. They're not there for people to just walk in and out of your life. They're not there for people to try to show you who they are because they don't even know who they are themselves. People who have such a low self-esteem that they feel like dragging you down is going to make them feel better when it's only a temporary gratification. We really need to start speaking life into ourselves and then speak it into others, because we cannot help other people if we're not helping ourselves. We can't keep continuing to give and give and get nothing back. I'm not saying that you should be selfish and never help anyone. I'm just saying that you really need to look within yourself. You really need to say, hey, you deserve better. You are worthy because God created you. You're everything that God created you to be. God did not intend for you to settle for less than what He intended for your life. He didn't intend for you to have your heart breaking over and over again. He didn't intend for you to be used by every woman that you're with. He didn't intend for you to not mature and work on yourself and then get into a relationship with someone who just wants to use you. He did not intend for you to be only your body. He did not intend for you to be talked to like a piece of trash or like a piece of, I don't know, a piece of dirt. He really intended for you to be something special. We all have gifts that God has given us. That's what it said in First Corinthians, I think it was 11. And in order for us to use our gifts, we have to really have that relationship with God. We have to really sit down and look within ourselves. What is it that we're good at? What is it that God has put on our heart to do? For mine's was writing. And it's so weird because I kept taking course after course after course, and most of the courses would say the same thing. With something that it doesn't even have to be something that you like just love doing. It could be something that you're really good at that you don't even think of it as a gift or something that you are blessed with. You just think of it as something that you do. And it could be for fun. You would do it on your days off of work. You would do it to clear your mind. You would do it for whatever reason. It's just something you're naturally gifted at. And you don't know what it is. You don't know, like, you're just thinking. I kept racking my brain and I kept trying to think, like, well, I like creating things, so maybe it's something creative. Well, I like doing this. I mean, there were things that I was putting up in my mind. But if I'm being honest, I was things that were coming to the forefront of my mind were things that I wanted to do. They weren't things that I thought of as a gift from God, when I'm really being real. And sometimes I think that we like to look at things through what it is that we want. I do this. I used to do this with relationships. I would do this with friends. I would do this with jobs. I would do this with my gift. I always would do this, and it would always be what it was that I thought that I wanted, or I thought that I needed in my life. I thought that this is what would benefit me. It's not what would benefit God. And I don't mean it in like I'm just a completely selfish person. I feel like every human is a little selfish in their own way. So I don't mean that in just like a big derogatory term or taking a dig at anyone. I just mean that for me, when it came to a job, it was okay, what's the title? What's the pay? Things like that, not what really fulfills me, what can allow me to live within my purpose. Because sometimes you have to work the job and the purpose in order to fulfill or to reach more people, because God doesn't intend for you to be broke just because someone has to be broke. And we really have to get out of the mindset that being a Christian means being broke. It means being prosperous, whatever way it is, in spirit, in mind, body, soul, in finances, whatever it is. Just because someone has to be broke doesn't mean it has to be you. So we really need to start thinking in abundance, because God is the God of abundance. He's not the God of lack. As long as we are obedient and we're living in our purpose and we're doing the things that God intended us to do, we will not have to worry about anything at all. And I mean that. And no, my finances are not always like 100% on point, whatever else. Sometimes some things just happen. Sometimes you just need something fixed on your car. Sometimes you need to do stuff around the house or whatever else. Unexpected expenses happen all the time, but God always comes through. And that doesn't mean that I'm always at the same amount in my account. Sometimes it's different, but God's always making sure that I have everything that I need, regardless of what level I am at. And when it comes to a friendship, I would see people in a friend group and I'd be like, oh, it would be so nice to have this many friends or to be in a group like this. But I don't know what that group's really like. I don't know what being that type of friend entails. I don't know if they're really good people who are walking by their spirit, or if they are people who would confuse my mind and manipulate me or make me feel not good enough, or will we all be comparing each other against one another instead of only comparing ourselves with what we were yesterday or who we want to become. And when it comes to relationships, I would always look for someone who was super attractive, overly attractive, like too attractive, if that makes any sense. Someone who was just not a nice person, because I always felt like I didn't deserve anything better than that. And I know that's a little too real. People are going to say, oh, don't say that. I said used to. I do not look for that type of person anymore. I'm not looking for the bad guy, the person who's going to be super mean all of the time. I'm looking for someone who really will cherish and appreciate me and who knows my value. I'm not looking to teach someone of course, like people are going to try you. So I'm going to have to be like, no, I'm not okay with that. But I would look for things like that because I felt like that's what I wanted. I wanted to just be with someone who was super attractive, not because they were attractive, but just because it would make me feel like I valued myself more because I was with someone who looked like that for some reason. And I really think that just has to do with me getting bullied when I was younger. And I just felt like I had something to prove. But now that I'm older, I just have to prove things to God. Like, I want to prove that He didn't make a mistake when He gave me another chance and He graced me through all of the things that I went through in my life. So that's what I'm really looking forward to now in my life. And I really, when I meet people, of course, I want to be attracted to them in one way or another, but I'm not looking for someone who's just drop dead gorgeous, who is a really horrible person. Like, that's a bad combination. I don't know why that would have been a thing in the past, but when you have low self-esteem, when you really, really are always constantly beating yourself up, when you really feel like you need to punish yourself and you feel like you deserve to be miserable and you feel like you need to do God's job and in punishing you for the mistakes that you've made in the past, sometimes you will settle for things like that. But I don't want that in my life ever again for the rest of my life in Jesus' name. And I'm hoping and praying that when God does send the person into my life, they will be a kind hearted person who will actually be a good person, who has, who will fit into the purpose that God placed on my heart. And, my whole list, which is not really a list, it's just core values that are really important that I feel like any person who I'm with, that would be something that means the most to me. I'm not worried about, you know, any of those other things anymore. I'm more worried about just being attracted, but not being, I don't want to be in a position where I idolize the person that I'm with. I want to feel comfortable being myself and just allow God to do whatever it is that He needs to do. And whatever time period He needs to do it. Like I always say, whether it's a day, a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, however long it takes, just do what you do, God. Like what else am I going to do? I'm not going to go date these mean people and just settle for somebody like that who's going to mistreat me. I don't want to do that. And so I have no other choice. No, but I would rather wait on God anyways. That's just like a little inside joke that I like to think about from time to time because really you don't have a choice. When you try to do it your way, it ends in catastrophe every single time. It's always going to be the person who God didn't intend for your life. You're going to miss out on the person who's with you because you're wasting your time on people who don't see your value. You are wasting precious time that God could be building you, could be using you to serve other people, to change the world. So instead of you changing the world, you're changing your mind about yourself because you're allowing people who are below where God intended you to be at that moment to be in your life. You're giving them an opportunity to lower your self-esteem because they don't see your value. You'll never be able to convince somebody who doesn't value you to value you. You'll never be able to be encouraged by someone who breaks you. You will never be able to, and if they do give you a word of encouragement, they will be the same person who will be able to break you again. You really need to be careful with who you allow in your life, whether it's a friend, a job, or a person, a partner. You really have to make sure that you're intentional about your entire life because you only have one life to live. You don't just get this life and then you screw it up, wasting 15 years of your life on another relationship. And then God's like, you know what? I'm going to let you do a rewind and we're going to go back 15 years and allow you to actually meet people who are actually nice to you and appreciate those people. Like you don't get another opportunity to do that. So every time you waste time on people who really are a waste of time, who really are taking up space and rent free spaces, what the young kids say, in your mind, who really are manipulating your soul, who's really taking you off course of what your purpose is and away from God for no reason. All it's doing is really breaking you down enough for the Satan to be able to use you. It's not building you up. Any person who enters your life that is of God should be building you up. They should be the type of person, and I don't mean you're hanging on their every word so you need them to feel value. I mean they will add value to your life. They will make your life a little easier. It's not that they will do things and it's like you need them, but when they're there, it won't be a burden. It won't be like you took on another job. It'll take work, yes, but it's not going to be where you feel mentally drained or exhausted or like you're giving away a piece of you just to be with that person. You should never have to break yourself down to be with someone else. The person who steps into your life is there because they're adding to your life, because they fit into your purpose, because they are the person who God intended to be there, and it will flow. It will take work, but it won't be devastating. And I mean devastating in a way where they're there with you and they just keep breaking your heart because they keep making you feel worthless, because they keep pulling away from you, or they breadcrumb you, which is giving you just enough to keep you hooked and then allowing themselves to manipulate you over and over again. Those people are not for you. That's all the adversary sending somebody to you to try to keep you off course so that you don't reach your full potential, so that you can't live in your purpose and live your destiny. We have to be real careful of the people we allow in our lives. And it may sound it may sound drastic to just X people out like that, to just put up boundaries, to have standards, but it's necessary in order for you to live the best version of your life, for you to be at the highest level of your life, for you to be, glowing up or whatever the new terms are. Like, in order for you to do any of that, you have to protect yourself first, because you can't help anybody if you're not helping yourself. You can't. And when I say that, I do not mean using people. I don't believe in that. Um, and I know there's a lot of people who do, and I understand where they're coming from, because once you've been broken, sometimes when you're miserable or you're hurting, you want to hurt other people, but you don't have to do that. It's not going to benefit you to do things like that. It's not. God is not going to be able to bless you if you're hurting one of His children. So you really have to be careful who you step on. You really need to make sure that you're being the type of person who's leading with love and kindness, who really is trying to do things for the benefit of God and the benefit of the kingdom, and being intentional and obedient. You need to make sure that you treat people the way that you want to be treated. I know we've probably heard that if you're like me since you were like 7 years old or whatever, but it's really true. You reap what you sow. If you want to sow good things into people, if you want to be a good person, regardless if, so, side example, regardless if you meet somebody who comes into your life who doesn't see your value and tries to use you because they feel like, well, this is just another woman. Let me just go ahead and waste her time. Like, you have to be the person that says, I'm not going to just allow people in my life who's going to waste my time. Either they know what direction they're headed or they don't. They don't. You can't keep allowing people to just walk in and out of your life. When you start speaking life into yourself, when you truly see your value, when you really receive God's love, nothing less than the best is acceptable. Nothing less than the best is acceptable. I had to say that twice because sometimes when you're listening to a video and people are talking, you hear them talking, but when they say certain things, you don't hear things that may be intended for you to hear it. And so I know I hear some YouTubers say, like, watch the video again. If something speaks to you, pause it, take a note, whatever it is that you have to do. Make sure that you are intentional with your life. Don't waste your time on people who don't deserve a minute of your time or a second. You know who I'm talking about. You have those people in your life that you just keep allowing to be there. You keep giving your time to them, knowing that they don't deserve it. You keep allowing them other opportunities, even though they keep constantly dropping the ball. You keep expecting things to be a little bit different, and it's never any different. You keep thinking that, well, if you're like me, you take a lot of responsibility. So when you mess up on something, you really beat yourself up. So you feel like other people deserve another chance because you messed up. But if it's God, there's nothing that you can do to ruin a chance with someone who God intended to be in your life. So regardless of what you say wrong, when you apologize once and don't harp on it, because you can't just beat yourself up for it. That's God's job if you did something wrong. And if you made like a silly mistake, you really need to let go of it. You need to just acknowledge that you made a mistake, learn from it, and do better the next time. Don't just harp on that, because that's where the adversary will walk in. That's where the person who's not intended to be in your life will manipulate you and use it to their advantage so that they can stay around longer than they were supposed to. You really have to know, like, so for me going forward, and for you, hopefully, men and women, I hope that when you are getting to know someone, you're being intentional and you know what their intent is right off the bat. And you don't have to like go in and just turn into like this over the top person who's doing the most, but really just figure out where their head is. Figure out what type of mindset they have. And you don't have to just like play these little games or anything like that to figure out that the person is intelligent, because if they're like me, if you ask me a question, I'm probably going to get it wrong, because I'm going to, not because I feel the pressure, but because I'm not like a on the spot type of person. I'm more of a like procrastination, can figure out things really quickly kind of person, not a on the spot kind of person. When people put me on the spot, it's more like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm so over analytical. When the person asks me something, I start thinking about 10 other things. And then when they're like, okay, is she going to answer the question? I'm like, this person thinks that I don't know anything. Like, but I'm super intelligent. I just don't think like that. That's not like how I get down. I just can't do the on the spot thing. I mean, I can do it, but it'll be a hot mess. And so you get what you get. You ask for it. You want me to do stuff on the spot? That's what's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, that's just who I am. I'm not like I gotta really prepare for stuff. So, like, when I do speeches or whatever else, I'm not just I can do a speech and then just say it. I have to really write it down, rehearse it in the mirror, say it a few times. And if I feel God, especially if it's something that God put on my spirit and I don't want to lose it, I will really have to write it down or like record it or whatever else, and then just keep redoing it over and over again. Now, if I have to get up in the middle of something, sometimes I will write like a little note to myself. And I don't have it on, no, I don't have my notebook in here. But so I had to do this speech once, and this person said something like, yeah, we really would like Tranisha to say something about something. I don't know what it was, but they were like, yeah, for like some kind of inspiration. And I didn't know I was going to say anything. I just wrote down stuff because I was like, okay, well, this is why I'm here. This is what I would like to do. So I'm like, you know, I just started saying something like, I just don't want any other person to have to go through the things that I went through. And because of the past that I had, because of the things that I went through in my life, I really want to help and inspire other people. And I'm able to do that due to real life experiences, because God used me even though I didn't think that I could be used. He used my story. He used all of the things that I went through in my life as a lesson. I could use it as a lesson plan. And because I learned and he used me, and I'm able to use that for my business to inspire and speak life into other people, it allows me to be able to walk in my purpose. Like something like that. But that was only because I had like one little sentence on the paper, and it gave me like a incentive, or it gave me like some sort of initiative, like it gave me like the inspiration that I needed to be able to say something on that. But still, that wasn't flawless. That was just like a little snippet of what it is that I do, but it's not like where I would have wanted it if I prepared something, so I'm just I'm not that type of person. And being honest, I love math, and I'm really really good at math, but I have to write down every single problem. I'm not the in my head kind of math problems kind of person at all. Like I tell the test about how I, did testing at college, and when I tested into pre-calculus. I went and passed straight through pre-algebra and algebra 2 and trigonometry and into pre-calculus. I finished pre-calculus, but they said that you would want to take pre-calculus before taking calculus just to have it or whatever. So it's not that I'm not super intelligent when it comes to like mathematical equations or figuring out solutions for things when it comes to math or anything like that. It's just that I'm not a on the spot type of person. Like, this is gonna sound silly, and of course I know 1 plus 1 is 2, so this is a horrible example. But and this, I'm only saying this as an example, but they could ask me like, what's 1 times 1 or something, and or 1 plus 1, and and I in my head will literally be like, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 minus 1 is 1. And like I would end up doing like all of this extra stuff and overthinking everything, and like thinking about all of these other things while they're asking me the question. And 3 seconds later, they're like looking at me with the face like, are you going to answer the question? And I'm just like, yeah, mm-hmm. And they're like, did she really just, did she not hear me, or is she ignoring me, or what's happening? But don't ask me questions on the spot, for real. I'm not the type of person. Like, yeah, you can ask me normal conversational questions and we can have like a normal conversation. We can discuss different things and my opinions on other things or whatever else. And I'll tell you how I feel about it in the most respectful way, but I'm not, don't ask me, don't ask me anything on the spot, like for real. Like, I'm so horrible at it. And I could try to pretend like I'm good, like, and just like keep a calm, like good face, but it's it's not gonna look good. It looks a hot mess, and I wish people would stop doing that because I'm so bad at it. But whatever, it is what it is. It's too late now. But yes, so you, I really don't want to make this video too long, but in conclusion, in conclusion, we really have to speak life into ourselves. Whenever we have a moment of weakness, we can't allow the adversary to have the upper hand. We can't allow someone to just come in and manipulate us into being something that we're not. We can't allow any person to just walk in and out of our lives. And that could be family, it could be friends. And I don't mean like you and your friend have to talk every single day or something like that. But I mean, if you are building a friendship and you're reaching out to your friend and you're doing all the work and they're doing nothing, that's not really a equally beneficial relationship. That's something that's only you pouring and not receiving anything back, and that's not good. And the same thing when it comes to a potential partner or someone that you're in a relationship with. You don't want to be the only person doing everything. You want to make sure that you are filling yourself up and then filling each other up. And and whenever someone comes into your life and they're breadcrumbing you like giving you a little bit of what it is that you want and then not doing anything else and just doing enough to keep you on the hook, you have to let those people go. You can't allow them to keep manipulating you and using your time as if we don't know when we're going to go. Like, it could be tomorrow. I don't want to waste my time on someone who really doesn't see my value just so that I didn't live the fullest life because I gave some of my time to someone who didn't deserve it. I really want to make sure that we are being intentional about our lives. And when we do meet people who try to bring down our self-esteem, and they might not even be trying to do it intentionally. It could just be that they don't know like where they are in their life, or they they had other issues in the past where they were hurt and people manipulated and used them, so they're being really super cautious when they step into another relationship or whatever else it is. But you really have to know what your value is, no matter what's going on in someone else's situation, and you don't have time to waste. You It has to be some sort of intention behind whatever it is that you allow in your life, whether it's a friend or whatever else it is. And even with the job, if you're there and you know in 3 years you want to be in such and such position, I'm not saying in 3 years you will be in that position, but they're hiring you with the intent of you doing the best that you can and becoming a subject matter expert in whatever field it is that you're in. And once you're there, you hopefully are growing in other areas, with whether it's training or it is in a higher position with a promotion. So you really have to be intentional with everything that you're doing in your life. And every time you feel a moment of weakness, speak life into yourself. Read the Bible, spend time with God. Earlier today I was working out. Man, you should have heard me speaking life into myself. I really was in it. Like, for real. Like, I had that moment of weakness and I just felt like it's so weird because I get an idea in my head and it just keeps replaying. And sometimes when something bad happens in my life, or someone disappoints me or someone doesn't see my value, I keep replaying how I could have proven that I was better than that, or not proven to them, but proven to myself. And it's not, and I say that because I don't want anyone to think that I'm just thinking of strategies to impress someone else. No, I'm trying to be the best version of myself. And sometimes when I fail, especially when it comes to someone else, I'm like, how could I be that weak in that moment? How could I allow that person that much time in my life? How could I really just settle for less than what I deserve there? How could I not stand up for myself? Like sometimes I'll just be so preoccupied with what's going on in my life and living my purpose. When people play their mind games or they do their little manipulation tactics, I literally have no idea that they're even doing anything. I literally am just like, okay, I have this, this, and this going on. They're like, oh, I can't do such and such because something else, and they have like a legitimate reason for canceling or something. And then I don't think about it as a game until afterwards because I'm so busy doing other stuff. I don't have time to worry about why the person is is doing whatever it is that they're doing. I'm just focused on being a better version of me, if that makes any sense. So sometimes when I finally get a moment to myself like today or something like that, I'll think about it and I'm like, can't believe I let them just get away with saying, "Oh, they're canceling." And okay, legitimate reason, that makes sense. But if they don't like schedule something else or they don't ask again or something else like that, then I'm like, they really think that I'm weak. Like, this is the point where I was supposed to step up and say, oh, my time is super precious. Like, you can't just play with my time like that. But because I was so preoccupied with so many other things, I didn't even think about them. And it's not that I don't think that they're important enough to think about or where I'm trying to downplay them. I just really have so much other stuff going on. I wasn't even worried about it. I was just like, okay, they didn't, you know, appreciate my time. I'm moving on with my life. Not moving on like I just completely X'd them out, but I just was reading, I'm doing courses, I'm working my job and I'm working my purpose. I'm serving other people. Like I'm going into all of these other events. I was writing the book. Like I had so much other stuff going on. I didn't even think about I wasn't even thinking about what that person was doing or how they were trying to manipulate me or how they were using it for their advantage. It didn't even cross my mind until I had a moment to think. And it wasn't that, my standards aren't important, but for me, when I had a moment to myself, I was really beating myself up like, you're smarter than this. You deserve better than this. Why would you ever settle for something like this? Why would you ever not realize that this is what was going on in this moment? Why would you feel like your time is not important when you have so much other stuff going on and you barely have enough time? I mean, I do have time that I can put aside for other things like Sundays, I spend time with my family and I do stuff like that, but I just really was like, now it's another guy who's going to think I'm weak just like the last, like every time I get into a situation where the situation could be different, like I feel like and I'm sharing too much here, but even when I meet like a nice person, I like turn the nice person into a really horrible guy because I am not on it. I'm not on it in a way that I could just be like, hey, here are my standards. This is what's happening. This is what I won't accept. This is what I will accept. Not that I'm being like demanding or over the top, but I don't get to that point because not because I don't think I deserve better, just because I have so much other stuff going on. It completely slips my mind. It's not that I'm intentionally trying to lower my standards or I'm trying to make myself look weak. And then the person just takes it as well, I'm just going to treat her like she's nothing. And I'm going to totally not see her value because she didn't stand up for herself in this exact moment, even though she just had sometimes I just have a 30-minute break and I'm doing a 20-minute course and I have to take a quick 10-15 minute shower or something or whatever. And by the time I take the shower and they send a message or something and I send a message back right before I work out or after I get out of the shower, I'm back at work. And by the time I get off of work and I'm reading and I'm doing all of these other things, by the time like dinner is fixed or I went to like Bible study or something else, it's like 7 something at night. And 7 something at night, after Bible study, I might be picking up my daughter or something, and I pick her up, and we get home, it's 8 o'clock or 8 something. And at 8 something, I'm watching my one show, have my 30 minutes to an hour that I get every night for myself, that I can just decompress and relax. And I'm honestly not thinking about what that person did at all. I'm like, I responded, that was the end of it. I haven't even thought about it. And so, and so, like, sometimes I really beat myself up, like, oh my gosh, now here's another person who's going to end up trying to use me because I didn't stand up for myself, because I didn't stick to my standards here, because I knew this was unacceptable. But in the moment, I was in such a rush. I just said, oh, and just shot a text message back or whatever else. Like, I didn't even, it didn't even occur to me that I was being manipulated at all, because I just didn't have enough time to think about it. I really, I really was busy living in my purpose. And I know I have to get better at that. I'm really trying to be more intentional from earlier today when I was speaking life into myself until the rest of my life. I really want to be more intentional about what it is that I respond to, and who I accept in my life and who I don't accept in my life, and who deserves to be there and who doesn't deserve to be there, and who truly appreciates me and who doesn't appreciate being a part of my life. And if they don't appreciate me or being a part of my life, or aren't really putting forth any effort, then I can't waste any more time on them. It's not that I'm trying to like say that I think they're unimportant, but the only way someone's important in my life is if they feel I'm important. And if they don't feel like I deserve for them to pursue me, for them to put forth any effort, then they don't deserve to be a part of my life at all. And it sounds a little harsh, but I just don't have the time for the games. I don't have time to, like, of course, I want to speak life into other people around me, but I don't have the time to pretend as if I don't deserve better than that. I don't have the time to to try to prove that I'm better than what they expect me to be. Like, either you see my value or you don't. And when you try to play your games, I need to be a little better at spotting those things. But it's just, I'm not going to slow down, because I got a lot of making up to do with God. I did a lot of bad things in my life. I made a lot of mistakes, and I can't just get lax and allow Satan the opportunity to come in and lower me. And sometimes he'll use it with people. Sometimes he will introduce people as potential partners, and they'll come in and they will really feel like I'm not worth anything. And they will put all this effort into trying to get with me and whatever else. I'll finally give them some sort of chance, like a number or something, and then they will just drop the ball every time. But I think that's just because they're not from God, and it's just not what God intended for my life. But I can't help, because of the type of person I am, feeling like I'm solely responsible. Like, I want to take on the whole burden, as if it's something that I'm doing that's making people not see my value. But the right person will see my value, just like the right person will see your value. And so when you feel like that, when you get in those moments, you're going to have to speak life into yourself. You're going to have to really say what you deserve and know that you deserve better, because you don't know better than God. And if God is saying that you deserve someone who's going to treat you right, who will speak life into you, be make who will be easy. Not easy in a way that they're just going to accept anything and lower their standards for you, but in a way that they really will see, they'll help you in some sort of way. And for the people who are thinking like this, I do not mean someone who's paying all your bills and they are just somebody that you just met. I mean someone who really will be helping you and making life feel a little easier. They won't be making you feel like you are super stressed out all the time, because they don't know what direction they're heading and they're all over the place. A person who, I think the Bible said something like, I don't know if it's double-minded. I think it's double-minded. A double-minded man is, it didn't say desolate, but it means desolate. And I believe that to be true for any person that you invite in your life. For men, if it's a woman that just wants to use you for your money, obviously that's not the right person. If it's a person who is only worried about what it is that they get and not how it can be mutually beneficial, that might not be the person for you. And for women, if you meet a double-minded man, it's really desolate. It's not going to add any value to your life, because if he can't make a decision on what you would position you would serve in his life, and I don't mean position in the way that these rap songs mean it. I mean, if he's not intentional about who you are in his life or what he's looking for in his life, like if he has no direction on where he's headed, no matter what his position is, like his title, then you're not going to be able to benefit in any way in his life, because a person without direction is leading you nowhere.